Morning guys, it's Mark Dawes, Tuesday the 16th of February 2016. I want to do this quick video blog post for you because I had a really interesting phone call this morning and I want to share that with you, and I'll be interested in your comments at the end of this video, so please do leave some comments below because I'm really interested in your points of view because I may be able to pick this up and run with this further. The nuts and bolts of this is that this morning I received a phone call from the director of a children's care home, and the gist of this conversation was this. He said, the children's regulations tell us that we cannot use any technique that may cause pain with a child. We cannot use any technique that would cause intentional pain with a child. Therefore, we have to remove all of these techniques from our training portfolio, from our system of training. I said, that's great, that's your choice, remove them. I said, but may I ask a question? If you remove these techniques, will there be some children in your care home that your staff will not be able to control because they won't have the skills to enable them to do that? And he said, absolutely. We have some children in our care home who are very big, they're very powerful, they're very strong, and if we take these restrictive techniques away, the staff will definitely not be able to control them. I said, okay, so why are you removing the techniques? His response to that was, Ofsted have told us that we cannot have these techniques, and if we keep these techniques in, then we'll be downgraded and it could end up with us losing our business. So I said, okay, so this is a business decision then. You're making a decision based upon the fact that you do not want to be shut down by Ofsted. He said, yes. I said, but the fact of the matter is, if you remove these techniques, children and staff will be placed at a greater degree of risk because you won't have the skills within your training system to control these children when they become very challenging, as you have described. He said, yes, that's true. I said, so why are you removing the techniques? He said, because Ofsted have told us to do so. I said, okay, look at it this way. If you remove techniques from your system that are known to work and that results in the child being seriously injured or, God forbid, killed, the very organisation, Ofsted, that are telling you you cannot use these techniques will then come and actually review you, and they will probably come and punish you or sanction you for failing your duty of care towards the child. He said, I know, but we're not allowed to use these techniques because Ofsted says we cannot use any technique that may cause pain with the child. It's against the law. So I said to him, let me just clarify something for you. Guidance is guidance. It's not a statutory instrument. It is not the law. Therefore, it has no statutory bind. And you have to take the guidance in consideration whilst looking at all of the other pieces of legislation out there, which is common law, criminal law, and the Human Rights Act, and indeed the Health and Safety at Work Act. And the Health and Safety at Work Act says you must have a duty of care to your staff and your children. So I asked the question, I said, have you asked your health and safety advisor, your health and safety professional in your organisation about this? He said, I have. I said, what have they said? He said, it's okay, we can remove them. So I said, okay, let me just clarify this. You have just told me that if you remove these techniques from your system, your staff will not be able to actually physically control some children in your care and keep them safe, and your health and safety advisor is happy with you to do that. They're happy for you to remove a safe control method. He said, yes. I said, I think you need to go back and get a properly qualified health and safety professional to look at this, because that, in my book, isn't going to stand up anywhere. So he came back to the point and he said, but we have to remove these techniques because Ofsted have said we have to. So I said, okay, remove them. That's your choice. He said, but then I'll become liable, won't I? I said, yes, you will. He said, well, how do I get around that? I said, you get around that by challenging the guidance. You actually have what is now referred to as cogent reasons for not needing to comply with the guidance. And you've just given me them in so much as if you remove them, staff and children will be placed at risk because you need the techniques to work. He said, but Ofsted won't accept that. I said, well, then you challenge Ofsted. And I explained to the director, I said, look, we have letters from barristers. I said, I've been to a government panel where the chair of that government panel, I said, who's a professor and a dame, made a statement that is against the law to use any technique with a child that would intentionally cause pain. I said, we challenged that and we went to a barrister and we got a legal opinion, and I have that barrister's letter which says that the statement made by the chair of that panel was illegitimate. It means it has no bearing in law. I said, and we challenged it. I said, now, you can do that. He said, yeah, but we don't want to, because if we upset them, we won't get business. So I came back to the point and said, so at the end of the day, what you're saying to me is it's a business case and you want to keep Ofsted happy so you can get children in your care that you can't properly look after because your system of intervention is not effective. And he sort of mumbled about that. He said, okay, yes. I said, well, then challenge it. I said, and put a case forward for why you need to keep them in. And I said, no, I don't know your business, but it's probably not every child that needs a restrictive intervention. You may have one, maybe two, children within your care home portfolio that may need these restrictive interventions. I said, so if you don't want to use them, maybe the child is in the wrong placement, or if they are in the right placement, then you need to look at the behaviour care plan with your multidisciplinary team. I said, and then as part of the restraint risk assessment, get it justified. Because if you can justify it, you have a case to use them. The guidance is only guidance. It's not enshrined in statute. And he said, yes, I understand that. I said, great, then go and do that. He said, yes, but if I do that, Ofsted will still penalise us because we're using techniques that may cause pain. I said, well, then I can't help you. Because the bottom line with this is, and this is a point, the reason I'm doing this video is I want all of you training providers out there and commissioning agencies to understand this. As a training provider, we provide a system of training, physical intervention, breakaway, and all the other things that go with it. But it's up to the commissioning agency to do their part and decide which bits of that they want and which bits they don't want, based around good behavioural management, good behavioural care plans, and risk assessments. It's not our job to tell them that yes, they should use everything and no, they should leave bits out. There's a collaborative approach to this stuff. So that's the responsibility on the commissioning agency. It's our job to provide competent training. And I explained this to this director and said, at the end of the day, I said, the decision rests with you. It has to be your decision, and you need to actually justify that with your reasoning in writing. He said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I said, okay, so you're happy to put your name to a document to say that you're going to remove techniques from your system, knowing that that will place your staff and children in your care at risk. So because if you do that, and God forbid, a child dies or a member of staff dies, you could potentially be looking at a corporate manslaughter charge, in which case your business will most definitely fold. So forget Ofsted for the moment. I said, and as I've said already, the very agency that you're referring to, Ofsted, in this case, will be the very agency that comes in and will want to know why you did not extend a proper duty of care to your staff by providing suitable and sufficient training. And I explained to him that we've taken this up, and as many of you that watch our blog posts and read our blog posts know, we've taken this up at government level, we've taken it up with the Secretary of State for Education, we've taken it up with the commissioners, we've taken it up with government level, and we've said, look, who is responsible for ensuring that the training in a particular care home or school or whatever is fit for purpose? And it's always come down to, in the case of schools, the head teacher of the school, in the case of a care home, the person who owns the care home or the registered manager of that particular care home. Ofsted do not accept any responsibility for this in this case. They can advise you and they can guide you. You need to have your reasoning and your justifications, but it is not their responsibility. They're not going to be liable. If it goes wrong and someone dies, Ofsted aren't going to say, well, yeah, it's our fault. We told them not to have it. And if you challenge that, if your response to that is, well, we listened to Ofsted and they said we shouldn't have it, so we didn't have it, you're on seriously sticky ground. So, if you are a director of a care home watching this, or the head teacher of a school, or maybe even an Ofsted inspector, and particularly if you're a training provider, let's just clarify this. Our job as training providers is to provide competent training to the best of our knowledge and ability to help agencies choose the best system of training that meets their needs. It's the commissioning agencies, so the organisations, the management, the senior management team of that organisational responsibility to decide which part of that training or which training system best suits their needs, making sure that it actually controls all the hazards and risks that are being presented. And they have to manage that. And in a care home or in some schools, you'll do behavioural care planning, you'll have restraint risk assessment to that, as I've already said. That is your responsibility, commissioning agency, not the training providers. The issue I had this morning with this gentleman was I repeated myself a few times on the various things because he kept saying what Ofsted have said. What was very clear and very apparent from this morning's conversation is that this particular person would not take responsibility for making a decision. And that decision, sir, rests with you. You have to make that decision. What they were looking for was me, as the head of a training organisation, to say, yeah, it's okay, remove those techniques and everything will be fine and we'll pick up the fallout for you when it goes wrong. That's not my job. My job is to provide you and your trainers with competent training that is fit for purpose and which can be evidenced and has a clear audit trail, and that's what we do. It has a clear legal audit trail and a health and safety audit trail and a medical review. Everything's there. You need to decide which bits best suit your needs and which bits don't, and then it's your decision to actually leave those bits in or take those bits out. One interesting bit on this was, we had a conversation around this and we spoke about the Department of Health guidance that came out in 2014, the positive and safe. And he actually said, well, part of that guidance says that you can't even have a technique in there that may cause pain if the child moves. And I think the bit that says in there that says you can't have a technique in there that would inadvertently cause pain caused by the movement of the service user. That is absolutely, it's unworkable. It's impractical. It's not going to work because anyone can actually move, and that subsequent result in harm or pain or discomfort. And the fact of the matter is, if you have to use any restrictive technique, or indeed any technique, in a dynamic and flux situation where the service user, the child in this case, is moving and staff are trying to take control, there is absolutely no guarantee that there won't be any discomfort or harm or even pain caused by the dynamics of the movement. There is no holy grail of technique that will absolutely not cause pain. No, in fact, I lie. There is a technique that will absolutely not cause pain, and that is, don't use a technique. That's the only way you're going to do it. But having said that, if you don't use a technique and that results in someone, in this case a child, being subsequently harmed, where the use of a technique would have prevented that harm, then you're liable for negligence if that person is in your care. The law that surrounds this is quite simple. The force you use must be reasonable in the circumstances, which, as you all know if you follow our blog posts and indeed other of our trainers' blog posts, must be necessary and it must be proportionate. And proportionate means, quite simply, if the intrusion, the discomfort, the harm, or in this case the pain you cause to someone is justified by the greater discomfort, harm or pain that you prevent, then if it was necessary in those circumstances, it's reasonable. And that's what matters. That is the common law approach. And you cannot override common law with guidance. Guidance is not a statutory instrument. It's there for guidance purposes only. And provided you have cogent reasons, and there's enough cogent reasons in law, you can actually not comply with the guidance. But you need the justification to do so. So the whole root of this conversation this morning was about a person, particularly this particular person, who needs to make a decision, who needs to take responsibility for the justification of either keeping it in or removing it. Like I said, guys, I'll be really interested in your comments below because I'm going to run with this one. We're going to see where this goes. Thanks ever so much for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.